Up by the projector up there, if
I
you
looked
have not
into
signed in.
Where did Tina go? She
That way you
didn't
won't
sign
have to
in
take a test later.
But he doesn't.
And
Tina,
Hunt
just
is
make sure
here
you
for
sign
Henry
in
Shine
at
to
the
present
done
for us
drawing
today,
for
so thank you, Hunt, for coming. And we can get started.
I have to add in the
Clock, is there a clock or a phone I can borrow? I just don't want to go over. That's my big thing.
I'll start waving at you when you got 10 minutes left. How's that sound?
Okay.
Like a moderator.
All right. Exactly. All right, so is through Henry Shine, they offer this training for OSHA, and I get trained once, sometimes twice a year, depending on if there's updates or anything like that. So this is probably somewhere between number 50 and number 60 I've done so far. I travel all over the western state of Wisconsin and help out. There's a few things that are different that you're going to see, and we'll go over those quite a few times. And there's a nice, it's a nice refresher for a lot of things that you always pick up something. If you have questions, raise your hand, or you can ask at the end. There's going to be just a little quiz at the end, so I'll give you the answers. It's not going to be no pressure or anything like that. I'm not going to grade it, so good to go there. So it's required by the state of Wisconsin and the federal government to have the OSHA training every year. Whether you have me do it, somebody certified, or whether you have somebody go get certified somewhere, or somebody do your OSHA training. It's not because I love OSHA and I want to be here and do 50 times the same thing over and over again. So it's just required, and that's what I'm doing. So we're just going to go through it as fast as we can, but hopefully it won't take more than an hour and a half, hour, something like that. We're just going to go over all the subparts, kind of all that big OSHA book that's about 2.5, 3 inches thick that maybe you've seen. So we're just going to glance over everything in there. But by any means, you have any questions, please let me know, because I get quite a few eye rolls on some of these things. And explain just about everything now that I've done so many of these. All right. So you're going to see different subparts, right? This is just an example, and you're going to see subpart D and H and Q and all these different ones, right? You're missing A, you're missing B, you're missing T here. That's because a lot of those subparts are from different parts. Some of them may be for restaurants specifically, or they may be for the dental side, or they may be construction. So I'm sorry, I won't get you there. I wave my arms around a lot. So the subparts, these are the ones specific to veterinary medicine, and that's why you won't see an A or a B. I know my alphabet, it's just that I'm missing a few. All right, so we're going to go through all that. We're going to go over through what is required by your employer through OSHA and all the responsibilities. So first off, if you do see someone coming up and they say that they're from OSHA, does anybody know what's the first thing you should ask them?
For credentials.
Right, ask them for their badge. So just like a police officer, FBI agent, or anything, they're going to have a badge, right? And they're going to have a business card. So make sure you ask for those things, because there's some salespeople out there that try to sell you $300 posters. And I've even had that over in New Richmond, where they pretended to be an OSHA person, and they want to get in your back to see if you have those posters so they can sell you these required items. And so it is illegal to impersonate an OSHA person, and so they can get in trouble for that, and you can call the police if you want. But yeah, just make sure that you get the credentials. Now, should you say, oh, come on back, let me show you the place, let me show you around our facility and brag about? No, absolutely not. So keep them out here. Because they always find some little thing, and they usually give you time to correct it. But we want to keep them out here. We want to get them out of here as fast as possible. So they're going to ask mainly 4 questions, and that's what I've seen time and time again. Whether it be an OSHA person coming in, or whether it be a letter. I usually see 3, 4, 5 letters a year traveling in my territory, and the letters say exactly the same thing. They're fishing, right, for the customers, the veterinary clinics that are non-compliant. And you guys are one of the safest clinics, have one of the safest clinics that I've ever been to. So very, very safe here. But they're going to ask, okay, number 1, where's your OSHA book? Does anybody know where that big OSHA book is?
Printer's office?
And where?
Business office.
The business office, okay? So they're going to ask for that OSHA book. Should you say, oh, come on back, let me show you? No, go get the OSHA book, bring it up to them, right? So they're going to ask for your SDS sheets, which now it doesn't have to be in paper, but you can bring the paper one up too. It can be in a thumb drive, so either or, so get the SDS sheets. They'll ask for proof of x-ray badges. So whether you bring up the badges, whether you bring up the paperwork, because every 3 months you have that paperwork, right? That you have to bring up. Does anybody know where your badge is and where's that at?
Over by our church.
Kept in the back, right? So everybody knows where those are at, and you can bring those up, right? And the last thing is training. So that's why we had you sign in here. And hopefully, is everybody signed in?
Yeah.
Good to go? Okay. So that's why we asked, you have it? Okay. We'll get you that, make sure you get signed in. All right. Thank you. Because they'll ask for that, and then where are you going to keep that? With your OSHA book, maybe?
What's that?
The training sheet with your OSHA book. Okay. So if you do have any questions, where something's at, you want to make sure you ask your OSHA appointed person, which is required. Every clinic have an OSHA appointed person, right? So Missy is your OSHA appointed person. You can ask her questions. If you have anything, you can ask me questions. I'll give you my phone number if you want to write it down. If you don't feel comfortable asking those questions now, you can call me. It's 715-456-7476. And I live here in Altoona. You can call me anytime or text me. People do it all the time and ask me OSHA questions and things that get updated. I'll bring it up to Missy, and then she can pass things along if anything changes, which is always a few things. All right. So here's an example of an OSHA book. This is one that you can purchase, but you guys can make your own, and you've already got one associated with this clinic. And then you're just supposed to look at it once a year, update it if anything needs to be updated. You're supposed to customize it to your clinic because your fire extinguishers or your x-ray badges are different somewhere else, stored somewhere else than other people. So that's why it has to be specific to your clinic. Because everybody has different protocols and different isolation things they have to put in. Hazardous chemicals. So this is your injectables, right? This is your disinfectants, your liquids, your capsules, your pills, anything that you can ingest that's going to harm you, that would be your hazardous chemicals. So dog food, you can eat dog food if you want. You can eat cat food if you want. You can eat nutraceuticals, all those. You can gobble them all down, it's not going to hurt you, no worries there. Don't have to have the SDS sheets. You might see those missing from the list. That's fine, it's just the ones that can harm you. All right, chemical inventory list. Pretty simple. This is just the list of all your hazardous chemicals that are inside the clinic. If you had trucks, which you guys don't have large animal, it will be in those trucks, all the chemicals that are in there. So if the list, it doesn't have to be alphabetical or associated with a number as far as what your SDS says on it. You just have to have a chemical inventory list and have it updated every year. So you guys can use Cornerstone and download that, update it anytime you want. This is an example of the new GHS labels, actual label that's out there. Now this one is just kind of a generic form, but say it's alcohol. So it would have that product identifier at the top, the new ones that are being created since 2016 now. And they would have a picture on there of maybe there's a skull and crossbones or flames or some other environmental hazard. And they'll have a signal word. They'll either say danger or warning. And then some type of hazardous statement, maybe skin irritation, harmful if swallowed, or something like that. So those are the things that you want to take off of your original label. And if you pour it into, they call it a secondary container, then you just want to take that information and put it on a label and put it on a secondary container. So if you see a container that doesn't have a label on it, and it doesn't have to be marked up, but I mean, you put a label on there. As long as something's got a label, then you're good to go. So if it already has a label on it, original manufacturer, you don't have to put a secondary one on there. The original manufacturer label is fine. And this is just describing what I talked about. Okay, so here's all your pictograms. This has changed from this year. So back 2015, and the government pushed it to 2016, we had 4 health and 5 physical hazards. And then we had, now, this is the new one, the EPA, environmental hazard. So these, when I talk about back in 2015 and then pushed to 2016, I'm talking about the GHS system. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with that. You guys heard about GHS? Yeah. So it's a globally harmonized system. Simple, that if you go to Germany, you go to Australia, you go to Canada, it's all going to be the same symbols. So if you don't speak the language, you can't read something like that, then they have all those symbols on there, and you know, I probably shouldn't smoke next to that's going to blow up. Or I shouldn't drink that, it's probably going to kill me. So it's just those little pictures on there, on those bottles that warn you of things. Okay, this is just an example of a secondary label. It doesn't have to be a small one, it could be a gallon jug that doesn't have anything on it, and then they put this label on there. So you can copy labels, print them off the internet, you can make your own labels. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, they just want to transfer, like I said, the pictograms, the signal words, any other warning statements, harmful if swallowed or anything like that. And then numbers associated with how hazardous it is. You just have to put all that information over on your secondary label. And that makes up a GHS, a globally harmonized system. Okay, batch labeling. So this can get annoying if you have to label every single syringe that has a chemical in it. So they said you put it on a box, that's fine. You put it on the shelf, you're good to go. You don't have to label every single individual syringe, otherwise it would take you forever. And then this is just an example that you can print off, and it goes for all these posters. You don't have to purchase any of these posters or this. You can go to the government website, they have it all for free, and you can just print it off and put it up. And all your posters like this one are in the basement, right? So it looks a little bit different, but it has all the pictograms on there and the numbers associated with how harmful chemicals are. Those are all by the Employee Rights Act, and so everybody knows where those are at in the basement, all your posters, right? They might have a 20, 50-gallon drum to rescue or something like that. And so you have to go through, you have to have different products to soak those up, and you have to go through a different spill procedure. Okay. So SDS sheets, this is part of the globally harmonized system too. We went from MSDS sheets, material safety data sheets, to the safety data sheets. Here we didn't see a difference, right? But if you go to a different country, there might have been a huge difference. And again, they just wanted everybody on the same page. So if you go to different countries, it's all the exact same with the pictograms or the SDS sheets. You know exactly how to clean up the spill here versus another country. So it makes it a lot easier. Like I said, you can put them on in a little binder. You can print them all off if you want to. That's still fine, but not required. Put them on a USB, little thumb drives, good enough. Just update them once a year, and then have chemicals for the last 30 years. That is new. So what I did put on a USB drive there just a couple seconds ago. It took up about maybe 200 to 300 megs, and it's got all the chemicals that we have in stock for the last 30 years. So you just have to add on to things like bleach or something that we don't carry. So you guys are very well up to date now. And this is a kit that you guys don't need. You guys have all the book and the posters and all that. Spill kit. Where is your spill kit at? Does anybody know? In the what?
Raised closet.
Raised closet? Maintenance closet, okay. Didn't know if that was a secret room. All right. So as long as you guys know where the spill kit's at, make sure it's supplied. You don't have to have a checklist or anything like that, but just make sure you get some kitty litter in there. You got some personal protective equipment in there, your gloves or your masks and all that. And does anybody ever use the spill kit?
Yes.
No.
No.
Not me.
Once. All right. Yay! Use it. Just to make sure you replace stuff if you do use it. But it's not like the construction side where, okay, first aid kits or spill kits, you have to put down if you used a Band-Aid, you put it down, what you used it for. No, we haven't got that far yet. Just have a spill kit on hand. So if you look up OSHA, I get this a lot. There's different areas of OSHA. There's for construction, there's restaurant, there's dental, and they're all different. So if you do have a question, always ask your point person or me, or you can call into this company, and I'll give you their number at the end. If you don't feel comfortable asking me this. Master spill kit, you guys don't do chemotherapy here, right? So you don't have to worry about that. All right, so here's all the subparts, right? Anybody seen the air on this presentation?
There's two Z's.
Two Z's, yes, absolutely. I don't remember what the letter's supposed to be, but yeah, that's incorrect. I'm not supposed to alter the presentation though, so I have to keep it as two Z's. So these are all the different subparts for veterinary medicine specifically. We're just going to go through the different subparts really fast. We're not going to cover them in 15 minutes apiece, but you are required to do one subpart on your own. I think Mitzi's going to do that later on, maybe in, so good to go there. So I'll give you some ideas on these subparts. All right, walk-in and work-in surfaces. So has anybody ever used the wet floor sign? Awesome. So that's not for your customers, that's for you guys. Because it's occupational safety and hazard, right? So it's all OSHA cares about is you. They don't care about your customers. They don't care about your pets. They just care about you. So if you have a question, you're trying to think, is this OSHA that pertains to you? Then absolutely. So they want to make sure that you stay safe and that you don't fall. And so that's for the next person that's walking by so they don't slip and fall and hurt themselves. So stairways, you guys have railings, right? It's well lit, and you got all that. Ladders, if you see a ladder that's leaning up against the wall, just make sure you put it down so it doesn't fall on your head. It's got to be more than 3 steps, I believe. So anything that's higher, make sure you lay it down, or you hang it up when you're done. That's all you got to remember on the ladders. And 2 exits. Going to have 2 exits to get out, which you probably have more than that. Yes. And then they don't have to be lit. You're going to have to glow in the dark, but you guys are going above and beyond and putting the lit signs up there, so that's kind of nice. And just make sure you check them. And then you guys have the lighting. That's probably in case the power goes out. Yes, which is awesome. Again, above and beyond, so you guys are very safe here. All that's required is glow in the dark. Fire alarms, smoke alarms. You guys have those. Just make sure that you're replacing the batteries in those. Emergency evacuation plan. I know I saw one downstairs. So you guys, the schematics kind of the building and how to get out.
Every exit has a exit plan.
Perfect. Awesome. So you see in hotels, right, that they've got them on the doors. You don't have to do that in veterinary medicine. So you don't have to put it on the door. For, you guys have boarding, right? So if you're in there for an extended period of time, you know, over 8 hours, just make sure you use the little hearing, the earplugs or something like that. You guys have those. Yep. Just make sure you use that so you don't get that to lose some of your hearing. Some of those dogs can get pretty loud. Ventilation, it's only required once a year to have, you're heating your air conditioning vent, you know, out there, a new filter put in. A lot of people do it maybe once a month or once a quarter, but once a year is all they require it for veterinary hospitals. And it makes more sense for a smaller clinic to have it once a year, twice a year. But again, you guys are doing pretty well. Oxygen tanks. So this is considered a hazardous chemical, right? Or a gas, hazardous gas. Not because oxygen's bad for you, but because if it tips over, it could explode through a wall, or it could go downstairs, it could go up in the ceiling. So that's why we just got to make sure that we put a chain around there. And you guys have a chain. Or if you have the little tanks, just make sure they're attached to the anesthesia machines. Either way. That way, is something doesn't happen where they fall out and they smash through a wall, or they blow past you. And so this has happened at different clinics I've been to that actually seen oxygen right past them. So it's very powerful and really get you. All right, personal protective equipment. So this pertains to, you got to have in your surgery the bouffants, the goggles, right, with the side shields, the masks, pertaining to all that, the garb, the scrubs have on, stuff like that. Have an extra set of scrubs just in case of a biohazard situation where you have to put new ones on. If you have glasses already, then you can just get the fun side shields to put on there, attach them, whatever color you want. But the masks do require that you have at least a number 2. And so there'll be a 2 on there with a cross to it. That's your BFE rating, number 2, and you guys have those, and you're good to go. So the only ones that I've seen under a number 2 so far are the blue box Jorgensen ones, and those are just for the people in China who walk around in the small. That's true. So first aid kit. Where's your first aid kit at? Gray's closet. Secret room. So the first aid kit, it doesn't have to be an 11-piece kit like they have on the dental side, but you can make your own. You want to make a tub and put all the stuff that you have. So they just want so that you're not scurrying around all the clinic. Hey, here's where the bandage is. Here's where the gauze are. And meanwhile, you're bleeding all over the floor. And so they want it just in one spot, so you grab it, wrap yourself up. Of course, take care of yourself first. If you got to go to the hospital, go to the hospital. If it can be taken care of with the first aid kit, it's a good idea to grab that. Replace anything that you take out, but you don't have to know exactly what you put down. That's construction science. You see what this thing is? What is that? You don't have to have one of those. It just has a picture. But you do have to have at least somebody that knows CPR at all times in the clinic. So is anybody certified CPR person? Awesome. So that could be one of your subparts. You want to train everybody on CPR. That everybody knows.
I'll be your dummy too.
But at least one person you don't have to have everybody certified, just everybody knows CPR. And so in case of emergency, then you can do that. And then report all accidents. If there is someone that falls or anything like that, just report it to your OSHA appointed person missing, and she'll write it down. Fire safety. So this is a fun subpart to do, fire safety. So pull, aim, squeeze, sweep, right? You guys have fire extinguishers here, at least one. 3 or 4. Does anybody know how long? Question.
We have 5.
5. Oh, I thought you had a question. Yeah, 5. More than enough. Does anybody know how long, they say a big fire extinguisher will last? No, I mean if you press it. Sorry. So, you got me. How many? How many seconds?
Until it goes.
Until it's
So a big one, if you pressed it down the entire time, 15 seconds is all it's going to last. So if you build a fire, right, you build a fire outside, good luck trying to put that fire out with that fire extinguisher. I mean, it takes more than you got to have skill to do it. So that's why they say pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep, and go to the base. And then it depends on, okay, what type of fire is this? Is this a grease fire? Is this a chemical fire? Is this because the fire extinguishers are for different types of fire too? So it might be a general one and get you by most of the time. What I'm saying is, okay, you have this room fire, you got a 15-second fire extinguisher, just get out. There's no way that you can put out the whole, even room. So it just gives you some perspective, I guess. Don't grab a pet, go in the back, grab a pet and take that with me. No, you don't have time for something like that. So just get out and be safe. Any questions with that? There you go. All right. Electrical safety. This one I get a lot of eye rolls on. Extension cords. You can't use extension cords, right? Not supposed to use extension cords. But if you have extension cord like, say this one right there, it's an extension cord, right? But it's got a, what do you call those? Flip off and get them wet. Surge protector. So that's okay. So it's not the length of the extension cord. They're not worried about you tripping over it. It's that they want some type of surge protection, GFI, on that cord or on the wall if you have an autoclave or something with water in it that it's plugged into and you step on the water. That'd be bad. So you guys have the GFIs here. This is a really new building. If you do see, even those type of cords, you cracked or worn, just make sure you throw those away. Anything like that. And record keeping. So this is pertaining to, if you have had your tetanus shot, you've had the series of rabies shots, your employer's supposed to ask you if you've had those, but you don't have to tell them if you've had them. So that's, what do they call that? The right to know law or something like that. Or is that, I don't know what it's called. But. So the employer asks you, but you don't have to tell them. But it's a good idea probably to tell them, because if you passed out on the floor, and they're going to wonder if you had tetanus or something like that shot. So they have to keep those for 30 years. And your OSHA appointed person, make sure you tell her if you want to. X-ray badges, you guys have those. Those are really going down in price now, so those are really nice. Don't have to have them for every single person. Actually, if you look it up online, you do Google, do we have to have those in the state of Wisconsin? The state of Wisconsin says you don't have to have x-ray badges, right? But OSHA says you do. So, but it's just for the people using the x-ray machine. So that's why you have the x-ray badges. Anybody that's using it should have an x-ray badge. There are some different laws, OSHA laws, in Minnesota and other states for portable x-ray machines too. But here it's just required, okay, that you have the thyroid shield, you have the aprons and the gloves, and then you just make sure they're not cracked or worn or anything like that. Please ask questions if you want me to elaborate on anything. Example, x-ray badge, you guys have those. And all your postering requirements. So these haven't changed a whole lot in the last few years. You guys have all these downstairs in the basement. You guys know where all your posters are, right? You can see these little sheets right here. And so you can print these all off. It's all free to print those off instead of buying a poster. But you can buy the set for $20. That's what some of these guys coming in pretending they're OSHA, they're trying to sell you posters and charge you $300. But, yep. Now the general duty clause, besides the subparts, you have all these general duty clauses with OSHA. So we're going to go over those just briefly, and then you can do a meeting on each individual one if you want to. But again, either a subpart or a general duty clause, you just have to do one a year on the veterinary side. And I have, Missy, if you need any more help with any of these, I have tons and tons of information on any of these subparts or general duty clauses. Okay, so this is pertaining to the pet restraining. We're going to go over that a little bit. We're going to go over, yeah, you guys have a separate fridge, right, for vaccines versus where you put your food. You can make sure that drinks, right, drinks are okay out here, but you're not supposed to go back where you're doing the fecal sample and have your drink right there while you're doing your fecal sample. That's not good. So, it might not taste too good either. So just think about that when you've got your drink and you've got your food. Keep that in this type of area. Keep that in your break room area. And we're going to cover workplace violence, which I think is really interesting. And maybe I'm going to quiz you on a few things with that. So workplace violence. Do you guys have any type of workplace violence code words, I guess?
Code words. Ruby.
Ruby?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's Ruby?
I forgot about that.
If you're in an exam room and you yell Ruby, they're supposed to come in the exam room.
Okay, nice. Just in case it's an emergency situation.
I think we need to bring this back up.
That's a really good. And some of you use colors. Code red, yeah. But just don't want to yell out, "Code red!" and then everybody runs. So a better example would be, okay, I was down in Barron, and that clinic down there, and they don't care if I tell clinic name or who it is, Blue Valley Vet down there, and they had someone come in with a gun, right? So it was a situation where it wasn't on his hip, he actually had it in his hand, right? So something like that, then they start talking, and they had the code word set up, and it was code word, it was blue. So they said, "Oh boy, your animal," which they didn't have, really looks blue today. And so then everybody in the office knew he's got a gun, get out, or call, when you get out, call the police. So she stood up there, and then everybody else kind of gradually worked their way back. You don't want to say, "Go blue," and then, they whip out the gun. And so it's a good idea to have those and work them in the conversation. Maybe have a subpart meeting on it or something like that. So that's coming up more and more, adding colors or add in Ruby or something like that. Very, very good idea. So your customers are not going to know what Ruby means. So that's good. And then, of course, you're not supposed to scream at each other, right? You're not supposed to punch somebody in the face.
Why are you looking at me?
There's always a few.
Where's Nikki? What about Gary? Where's Nikki?
So specifically, you guys too need to read this. In word for word, all the violent acts you're supposed to avoid.
It's okay.
All right. So this is
Harassment too?
then your face games. Nothing bad.
Why can't we have a sign?
Abusive.
But with that situation, that clinic down in Baraboo, the police came and they kept him calm and nothing happened. But that's actually happened twice to me. So, one time it was really bad, the other time it was not that big of a deal. But there's even people that come in and they're just very upset. And you have no idea what they've got in their purse or hidden underneath their clothes or anything like that. I knew a guy one time that I go to church, and he always said he's always strapping, and when he comes to church, underneath his shirt. I would never know. So it's interesting. You just never know about them. All right, so back to animal handling. Right, you're not supposed to scream at the vets. It's not that OSHA cares about the vets. They care about the backlash. So if you scream at a cat, now he's going to bite you. So that's what they care about. So you can tell that cat anything you want. Just don't scream at it. So that's what OSHA says. They don't want that backlash. They don't want you to get hurt, right? And they want you to make sure that you have the slip leashes and the muzzles and bite gloves, a couple things that keep you safe. You guys have plenty of that stuff, right?
The best restraint's not up there, just so you know.
What's that?
Chemical restraint.
Chemical restraint.
That's the best.
That is the best.
Just so you know.
Absolutely. And then animal bites. Say if you do get bit, the worst thing happens, right? You're supposed to tell your OSHA appointed person, hey, I got bit. But after the fact, after you go to your first aid kit, you wrap yourself up. If you got to go to the hospital, right? But make sure you tell your OSHA appointed person. She's going to put it on the OSHA form, and then she's going to compile those at the end of the year, and then she's going to post that up. Was it February, March? Right, usually post those and make sure that everybody knows. Sometimes clinics like to have fun with it and say, how many days have we had since somebody got bit or scratched or something like that. To make it a game, Who can get out with no bruises and scratches, which is tough. So. But if you do get bit and say it is human blood, right, and it drips on the ground, you're okay. You're not hurt. You wrapped yourself up, right? You clean up the mess. And you use, what's common chemical you guys use to clean up blood or, I don't know, bleach? Use a lot of bleach. Yeah, so bleach will kill anything, right? Just don't put it in hot water, right? Because then it doesn't do a darn thing. You just got to put it in room temperature, cold, disinfect. If it's fecal material, of course, you got to mop it up, use your, something like that, and then use your bleach, right? And wait. So some people use the what do you call them, the one-steppers, like a Rescue, Excel. You guys have anything like that?
We have like a quad.
Yeah, we have like a neutral quad disinfectant.
Okay. So those are good too, those disinfect. They're going to kill everything in that blood. But you always consider human blood dirty and dog, cat blood clean. So when I say dirty, that means that you put on your garb, whether it be your gloves, make sure, and then clean up the spill. Use your spill kit, clean up the spill, right? And then that all goes into Sharp's container, your biohazard container, because you just never know. So always consider human blood dirty, even if it's your own, right? All right, who caught that? So we talked about the human blood. Now, for some reason, OSHA considers if it soaks up a 3x3 gauze, it goes in, all that stuff will go into biohazard. If it's less than 3x3 gauze, it's just a drop of blood, it goes into regular garbage. So why that distinguish? So incident reporting, we talked about that with Missy. So she has certain forms. She's got the 301 form, the 300A form. You print those off on the internet. Those are free to get. You just put those on there. But every single time, whether it's a scratch or it's a bite, whatever it is, please report that to your OSHA appointed person so she can write that down. Any incident. And then if you guys have plenty of tables that go up and down, your exam tables, you have the surgery tables that go up and down. You have gurneys, probably, things like that. Please use those. Use the buddy system if it's a big dog. Bend at the knees. Don't do the same job over and over again for this big dog lifting it up and down a million times. So get some help with that. They just want to make sure that you don't hurt your back or anything like that. Talked about that. Subpart Z. So ethylene oxide, this pertains to something you guys don't even have, right? You don't have an ethylene oxide sterilizer. You have a normal sterilizer, which is much safer. this would be a chemical plus the sterilization process. And so it could explode, and that's why they have this whole section on here. But since you guys don't have it, we're not going to talk a whole lot about it. There's a monitoring system that you have to have. And I don't know if there's any clinics around here except for maybe a few in Madison that have ones. So formaldehyde and formalin, that's what's in the oxide papers. So you guys have big gallon jugs of formaldehyde here, or do you have little ones? Just the little ones you pour in and make them? No. Okay, so that's really safe here. There's other places that do have the gallon jugs, or they've got 20, 50 gallon drums, research facilities. So, fun fact, right? How long can you sniff formaldehyde before you have to go to the hospital? Does anybody know? No. 8 hours straight. Which means you would have to put your face in the jar for 8 hours straight. Please go to the hospital for many reasons besides that. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is it's very safe around here, right? You don't have to worry about it. If you did spill a little bit of formaldehyde, just get your spill kit out, clean it up, goes in the regular garbage, don't worry about it. But yeah, just don't sniff for 8 hours straight. Okay, glutaraldehyde. So this is a chemical that's in your X-ray processing, which you don't have. You have digital X-ray. It's in a companion product. It's a one-step product which you guys don't have. It's in some instrument disinfectant solutions, which I don't think you have, do you? What do you use to clean instruments?
We have it's like a lubricant scrub.
Oh, yeah, which just doesn't have glutaraldehyde in there. Using noble sand, iodine, anything like that, or which doesn't have glutaraldehyde in there, so we don't have to worry too much about that. It's just for the yep.
The Kindness has
Regular, like a regular processor with
they do.
developers.
Okay,
So, and they're
gotcha,
here
sorry.
too, so.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are in trouble. Just make sure you know when you're cleaning that X-ray processor, those chemicals, you can breathe them in, and make sure you got your gloves on, and so you're not absorbing those. Whether you have kitchen gloves on, that's fine. A reusable mask, that's fine. Especially if you mix the fixer with the developer, it is an irritant to the eyes and to the throat, and that's why I just say make sure you wear that personal protective equipment when you're cleaning those out and messing with those chemicals. Thanks, Missy. Appreciate it. Monitoring devices. You can get a monitoring device for the glutaraldehyde, but not needed. We do sell them. Every time I've used one, it's never been above the parts per million where it's going to be harmful. So again, veterinary medicine, even if, bless you, even if you do have an enclosed space, unless you mix, again, the fixture with the developer and you're draining it constantly, you're not going to have an issue. All right, anesthesia equipment here. Now I'm coming in, see, once in a while, checking your anesthesia machines. So that's all that's required for that, to have a checklist, to have somebody come in and check it every once in a while. The ISO and SIBO chemicals we use now are much, much safer than the halothane that we used to use. So that 2 parts per million above there. I've done different tests, monitoring up in Hayward, different places where I'm not very sensitive to ISO, so I don't smell it too often, but when I do smell it, it's usually pretty strong for other people, and it was still not above that 2 parts per million. So what I'm trying to say is, around here, for everyone's sake again, I've never smelled ISO around here, but if you do, and some people are very sensitive to it, you can always call me, and I'll come in and check your anesthesia machine for free to make sure there's no leaks or anything like that. Yesterday, I had 2 clinics that called me. It was over in the Marshville area. Very simple, just tighten everything up, no more ISO leaks, they're good to go, and yeah, no worries. So just call me, I don't live too far away. You guys pump out? I'm trying to think of scavenging system, right? Scavenging system. So you don't have to worry about changing these charcoal canisters, you don't have to worry about breathing in all that waste gas, because it's all being pumped out. Let the people outside worry about that stuff. The Sotazorb, how often should you change? Does anybody know that, the Sotazorb?
We do it monthly.
Monthly?
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's whatever, monthly is very, very good compared to just about everybody else. So it's 8 hours of surgery, if you think about that, how often it should be changed. But there's 2 different types of Sotazorb, which kind of messes with people. I don't know why they do that. So there's one that gradually turns purple, and then one that goes purple to white, purple to white. So then people get confused and think it's white. Oh, it's still good. Well, it just turned purple, and you just during surgery you came back to being white. So monthly is very, very good. So it's going to be pretty close to what you need to do. And masking, so those little fish tanks, just make sure you check the gaskets on those, because those all can be replaced. The mask that go over the animal, make sure the gaskets don't have any cracks in them, because again, ISO can leak out there and give you a headache once in a while or something like that. So make sure you have those replaced, so there's no cracks in the tubes, anything like that, just check all that. But again, I'm coming in at least once a year, checking that stuff, sometimes more often than that. I check all that.
Thank you.
Oh, medication handling. Does anybody go to Walgreens, CVS, anything like that? Right? You see them counting the pills? Do they have any garb on? No, and because they're not touching the pills, right? So they're using, and if you need them, pill counters. I've got tons of them if you need them for free. So we'll buy pill counters, but you can use a knife or anything like that, or it comes with a little plastic. And just want to make sure you're using those and not your fingers, because once you start using your fingers and you absorb this medication of that one, and you don't know how they interact with each other, and then you have to garb up. If you're doing any splitting here, that's one thing that I haven't talked about. Do you guys do any of that? Splitting, grinding, anything like that? So you should have a mask on when you're doing stuff like that. That's why Walgreens people go to the back to do that stuff. They don't do it out front, if you noticed. Or they sell them, right? Out front, if you go to Walgreens, they sell their splitters, and so that's a good idea is to sell them, so you're not constantly doing all that. Otherwise, wear a mask. Make sure you're being safe with that, so you don't inhale those when you're splitting or grinding up, especially making that powder. Questions there? Okay. We talked about that. Splitting, washing your hands, using the personal protective equipment again. Cytotoxic drugs. You guys don't do chemotherapy. All right. So the only thing that would really pertain to you guys was, say they went to the cities and they did chemotherapy and then they came here afterwards. So if they come in, you put them, they're in a cage, make sure you put a card on the cage to tell everybody else, say this dog had chemotherapy. Because if they defecate, if they urinate, they vomit, all that stuff, that needs to be biohazard. You don't want to be touching that, so make sure you got your personal protective equipment on, so you're not touching that with your bare skin. So that your biohazard again could be your sharps container. So you guys don't have to worry about the cytotoxic drugs. And we'll go over a little bit the USB 800 a little bit too, and that's pertaining to the cytotoxic drugs. You see a special cage card put on there. Okay. So this started, they pushed it back to July 1st, 2018, so this year it just started with USB 800. A lot of this is pertaining to the cytotoxic drugs, so that's why a lot of clinics have gotten away from those, because now you have to have a hood, now you have to have all this garb, and if you don't, then there's huge fines associated with that. If you get caught, there's no grace period, I guess. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So that's why a lot of clinics have gotten away from it. But other than that, it's also pertaining to these anti-neoplastic drugs too. So these would be cyclosporin, right? One of those would be your hormones, your luteolase, I don't know if you use any type of, you probably don't use legally here, but any other type of hormone drugs? Does anybody know if you use? DES, pertaining to that? Yep. So they just want to make sure you are wearing your personal protective equipment with any of these. You don't have any bioengineering or anything like that. Most common is the chemotherapy or the hormones. So if you are drawing those out, dispensing anything like that, make sure you're wearing your gloves. It's pretty simple. There's another 40 pages of that, but I think that kind of covers the gist of it. But if you do need a full list of anti-neoplastic drugs, I have those too. But, so it's, yeah, ventilation, hoods, all that stuff, chemo, smoke kits, gloves, the kits, all that. Personal training beyond that. All pertains to USP 800 and then disposal of all that stuff and then extra on top of that. Okay, fun stuff. Zoonotic diseases, right? So we're going to cover those just briefly because I know that you guys know what zoonotic diseases are and how you get them. So I just want to make sure you know nationwide what they consider a zoonotic disease. And some of these are debatable. And so I just want to bring that up, and I'll show you which ones are kind of ridiculous, but I have to make sure that I tell you about them, okay? There's different ways that zoonotic diseases are transferred, and it just depends on the zoonotic disease, direct or indirect contact. We're going to talk about, which animals should you isolate, which ones can you send home, depending on the zoonotic disease. So in your OSHA book, you'll have that customized to which ones maybe you should isolate, which ones you shouldn't, which ones are zoonotic, which ones are not, and all the different, and if you need more info on that, I can definitely send you. Does anybody know what do you call it, the single-handed needle recapping technique? You know that, where you scoop it up? Okay. You don't pull it off with your teeth, right, or stick it back in, don't do anything like that, you don't want to get stuck, especially with these nasty chemicals and these drugs. So make sure you're taking off the needle and you're putting it in the sharps container, you're putting the blades in the sharps container, the glass, anything like that. Just make sure you're using those biohazard and sharps containers. And then in between patients, right, you wash your hands, use your personal protective equipment, just be safe if there's zoonotic disease animals or if there's potential for zoonotic disease. And that's why you have you don't have to have the long sleeve, they're saying now short sleeve's fine, but have the extra set of scrubs here just in case you run into a situation where, I don't know, a lepto dog comes in and pee all over you. You want to make sure you have extra guard. So you have an in-house washer dryer? Mm-hmm. You said, okay, good. Because that's a whole other half hour talking about. All right, scrubbing instruments. So you guys use the milk scrub or some type of lube scrub, things like that. They do make sure you have some type of kitchen gloves or nitrile gloves. The reusable ones are fine, and so you're not absorbing any of those chemicals. It's probably a good idea. But most of the chemicals here at the clinic are pretty darn safe. Oh yeah, bless you. You have at least one box of nitrile gloves too, besides the latex, just in case. So I've seen it where all of a sudden somebody developed a latex allergy, so it's a good idea to have at least one box of the nitrile. And then the safety glasses, we talked about that. You have the side shields, unless you have regular glasses, then you get your own fancy side shields. And at least a number 2 BFE reading on the mask. They go all the way up to an N95 that's by 3M, and then beyond that with the Darth Vader masks. But those are for, again, research facilities. You're sniffing them formaldehyde, protect against that. And here's quaternary ammoniums. There's a bunch of different ones there. You guys have something like that that's going to kill everything in human blood. It's going to kill everything in dog blood. So it's a good idea to mop with pine sol or some type of organic compound, and then after that wait and use your disinfectant. Or you can use these next generation, the Rescue Excel or something like that. It's one step at a time. And then the isolation protocol, this would be in your OSHA book, whether it be a generic form, whether you make it specific to your clinic is what OSHA suggests. Because every state's going to be different as far as their isolation protocol and what they consider zoonotic diseases, so that's a good idea. But for isolation, rabies, of course, an obvious isolation, but Lyme disease, you don't need to isolate them. And of course, your bacterial ones, we go through those real fast. So of course, everybody knows what lepto is, right? Transmitted by urine. And of course, Lyme disease, this is one of those debatable ones, whether it's a zoonotic disease or not. I get a lot of eye rolling on this one. Some veterinary organization, weirdos out in California, said 30 years ago there was a case, so that's why they had to put it in there, but, depends on a lot of different factors there, so that can definitely be debatable. In Minnesota, when I say that, state by state, sometimes it's a little different. They actually consider anaplasma a zoonotic disease over there. In Wisconsin, they don't. So there's going to be differences. Brucellosis, I don't see too much of that, or large animal. You go through these lists, a lot of them are large animal. They have to worry about the luteation of the hormones more so than we do, and they got all these diseases. Cat scratch disease. So that's actually around. My dad actually had that now 3 or 4 years ago, right before he retired from veterinary medicine. He got cat scratch, which is very painful, and it is around. Be careful of that one. Does anybody know how the plague was spread?
Rats. Fleas on the rats.
Fleas on the rats. Everybody knows that. There's different types of plague, right? It's still around, just more out west. Not too much here. Supposed to mention it, so there it is. Plague. Pasteurella, probably more of a large animal thing, right? You guys don't
Cat
see a lot.
bite.
Pasteurella what?
Cat bite.
Cat bite? Really? Okay. MRSA, it seems like a lot of people see MRSA even in the veterinary clinics, and so just make sure you use your personal protective equipment, you wash hands in between patients, and you just never know when there is a MRSA case, and just want to make sure that you're being safe. Everybody sees ringworm, right? Sure. So this is a classic case. Okay, so you see a ringworm cat come in, and probably. So make sure you wear your personal protective equipment. But don't take off your gloves and then give them to someone else, or put them in the garbage that someone's going to go in. Put them in the the sharps container, your biohazard. Just make sure not somebody else's. Yeah, spread all over your face. Alright, give somebody a big hug. Alright, parasitic, we're just going to go through these. And basically, it's all your worms, right? So, and this is why you don't drink your coffee next to the fecal station.
But we have the animal station.
And you guys send out your fecals, right? Is that what you do? And that's what a lot of clinics are doing, sending out fecals. And this is one of the reasons why, is because of all the zoonotic factors. And that's why it's so safe here, because you guys are sending all those out. So it makes you feel kind of nice. The Giardia, and these, there's a snap test, right, for the Giardia. If you do that here, it goes in regular garbage. You don't have to worry about it being a biohazard at all. Toxo, so no pregnant ladies, the scooping out the litter box or anything like that. Just be careful there. And crypto, see the crypto? That's what. Hookworms, I'm sure you guys see those. These worms, the hooks, the rounds, the tails. Anytime you run into this situation, now you always consider, again, dog blood is considered safe, right? Fecal material is considered safe. All this until it's sorry, just couldn't think of that word. And then mange, right? So anything, any animal that has mange, just make sure you wear your personal protective equipment. If you suspect they have mange, rabies, another one of those cases, they isolate them in a certain space, and you guys have that. There's different procedures, quarantine, rabies, and now waste management. So I get a lot of questions on this. Sharps, this is pertaining to that, pertaining to all your zoonotic disease, biohazards, all that. You're not supposed to transport them in your vehicle, so don't take sharps out of here and go somewhere. That's why you have someone certified taking your sharps. They incinerate it someplace, and then they're liable for all those issues with zoonotic diseases. So any type of zoonotic disease, vomit, feces, blood, or if it's got chemo in there, that would all go in your biohazard. Whether you put it in the sharps, whether you put it in a separate container, I just want to make sure that you're not putting your hand right in that. And then every 90 days, by a licensed certified hauler. Otherwise, you will get pulled over by the police, which happened down on the cross. Somebody got pulled over. So just make sure that you're not carrying that stuff. Good to go here. So also your blood tubes, your catheters, your IV lines, all that stuff. If it's got infected zoonotic disease blood in it, then it would go in the biohazard, which is not too often. You're going to run across that. But if you do, then it would all go in your biohazard, your sharps containers. And then any type of, and this doesn't happen very often either, your dead animals that are infected with the zoonotic disease would have to get cremated or go in the biohazard. And then any tissues, samples, anything like that that is from an infected animal. And okay, expired drugs, right? So if it's a chemical, you can soak up that with the kitty litter, and that can go in the regular garbage, or you can call the police station, or you take the expired drugs there. Walgreens, CVS, they'll pick them up, you can take them there, or if it's a Schedule II drug, then it's got to go through a reverse distribution process, which is a whole other set of companies. If you need that list, just let me know. And we talked about tissue, we talked about zoonotic disease animals, covered all that stuff. You guys have a laser? Surgical or therapy?
Therapy.
So this mainly pertains to surgical plume, CO2 plume. With a therapy laser, all you have to have is, you don't even have to have a sign, just the glasses, and you're good to go there. And that pertains to different classes too, the therapy laser. So if you have a class, it's going to be class 4, and you have to have glasses. You don't have class 4. And no worries. Okay, back to OSHA inspections. So if they ask for your OSHA book, where is that?
Business office.
Okay. If they ask for, they're going to ask for SDS sheets.
Business office.
Okay. And your training.
Everything's in the
Business office. And then X-ray badges. They'll ask for that, right? Those 4 things. Okay. Should you invite them on back? Say, oh, let me show the rest of the place after that. No. Bring everything out to them, right? Show it to them. Say, wait here. I'll go get the stuff. Bring it here. Right there. And then they're out. They're gone. They could be out in 30 seconds. The places that I've heard of them going in, the clinics have that stuff. They're ready, right? They give it to them. But before, if they start asking questions, what should you ask them though?
Show me your badge.
Show me your badge, right? Can I see your business card, right? So worst case scenario, right? They come in, you show them all that stuff. They say, all right, we'd like to look at the rest of the facility now, right? So you get your OSHA appointed person, right? Or, hey, can we make an appointment for in a couple weeks? You can definitely do that. You don't have to allow them back in right now. You have a few weeks. And so you just get your OSHA appointed person. If she's not around, get your owners. If they're not around, then definitely just a couple weeks. And you just let them know that, hey, they're coming back on such and such a day, and it should be fine. And you can always call me, and then I'll help you out, and you'll be good to go. Now this is new too. So if you're doing a euthanasia at somebody's house, or going to do a vaccine or anything like that, you have to have your SDS, little thumb drive, or the sheets with the chemicals that you have with you. You have to have a first aid kit, right? A eye wash station, which is just a little squeeze bottle thing, nothing really serious. And what else? A spill kit? Did I say that? First aid. First aid spill kit, eye wash, and SDS. All those little things is all you. Very simple. All right, review, quiz time. So we're running okay on time?
Yeah.
I didn't do too bad.
We're not too hot.
Good, good. Okay. So the written training program must describe how the requirements for labels, other forms of warnings, data sheets, employee information training are going to be met in your facility. True or false? True. Right. It is rare to find a hazardous chemical in a veterinary facility.
False.
Workplace gloves. True. The protection of employees from zoonotic disease is an important concern for OSHA. True. Absolutely. Fortunately, it is nearly impossible for veterinary employees to contract the disease from a dog or cat. Yeah. Pretty simple, right? Not too bad. And here's the phone number. So if you don't want to call me, if you don't want to talk to your OSHA appointed person, you can call this company, Compliance Training Partnership, HPTC. So that's who trains me at least once, sometimes twice. This year I think it was 3 times. And when you call in, you talk to Julie over there, or talk to somebody over there, make sure you tell them I'm from a veterinary facility. Otherwise they're going to tell you something from the dental or construction or restaurant. They do it all. So just make sure you tell them from the veterinary facility. That's it. Good to go? All done.